It's been a little bit, but I'm about to travel to New York, and I have no idea when the next time I can upload a video is. So I really just wanted to kind of spit out an unfiltered, unstructured thought vomit on Donkey Kong Bonanza. I have been playing this game like crazy, and I got swept up in the hype when I bought it, and I played all the Donkey Kong games leading up to it, and I have a lot of thoughts. I've played all of the mainline games at this point. I am intimately acquainted with how the games go. I've finished Donkey Kong Bonanza really quickly, but I had to travel. We went down to Miami for a Coldplay show, and then I came back and I was sick and depressed. And anyway, I'm good, but we're about to leave on another trip, and I have no idea when the next time I can upload it. So I'm just gonna sit here and spit out my thoughts, because there's a lot of glazing about this game, and the conversation's kind of shifted away from Expedition 33 being the surefire game of the year winner, and now people are saying maybe there's an Astrobot situation where they focus more on gameplay and fun over storytelling when it comes to the award ceremony, even though, I truly doubt it. But I want to give my take, because my question is Donkey Kong actually that good? Or is it just nostalgia that is kind of paving the way? So let's jump into it. I'm Solace. This is Solace and Dread. We produce analytical content as well as nuanced discussions, primarily focused on gaming. If you like that kind of stuff, consider subscribing. I'm going to throw up some of my gameplay in the background as we talk about this game. So, all right, check it. This was my unfiltered. This is my unfiltered thoughts on Donkey Kong, and we're going to start with the positives. I loved the gameplay loop, and I think that the gameplay loop is the strongest part of Donkey Kong Bonanza. It's not, it's not as innovative as, and I'll say that very honestly, I don't think it's as innovative as Mario Odyssey, but it is close. I really liked that that they gave him a giant open zones, and they finally went down this 3D format, and I think that some of the story beats are fun, and I honestly think, but staying focused on the gameplay, it somehow does not wear out its welcome. I thought for sure when I saw the trailers for this game that him just digging and smashing through terrain, it was going to be kind of stale very quickly. But I think what keeps it alive is when you find like challenges or when you like see something that you have to investigate and try to find some creative way to get to some banana. Like I think that it being a collectathon actually lends itself to that gameplay loop quite a bit. Like I think that having most of your time in the game focused on how to navigate these big open zones makes it a better gameplay experience than most of the Donkey Kong games. And I'll say this too, I can unabashedly say that Donkey Kong Bonanza is the best Donkey Kong game, and yes, that includes Donkey Kong Country 2. Like I know that game is one that people put on a pedestal, but having recently played through it all the way through, I think there's a little bit of rose-tinted goggles there. But this is not a video trying to bash the old Donkey Kong games. I will just say, for my experience, I think that Donkey Kong Bonanza is probably the best one that's ever been produced. And it was the same team that made Mario Odyssey, and so I kind of had no doubt that the gameplay loop was going to be amazing, at least to some degree. I was just hoping that it didn't get stale, and sure enough, they made sure not to do that. And honestly, it's kind of magical, because outside of your Bonanza powers, you know, Donkey Kong really does just kind of smash through terrain, but it's weirdly addicting. You know, it doesn't really get old very quickly, because you somehow get locked into wanting to find new stuff, you know. And then all of the worlds that you go to or layers, they're all so vibrant and varied, and even though you're like journeying underground, it doesn't feel claustrophobic. So I honestly, you know, and I'll be 100% transparent here. This is my kind of game. I like bright and happy games, you know, and that's always been my thing. I mean, I'm the guy who cried at Super Mario RPG because it's a bright and happy game, you know. So like, this 100% speaks to me. You know, this is not something that was completely outside of the norm for me, but so I do have a little bit of a bias there. But I think that the bright, positive vibes, the fun, being upfront with this is part of what makes it so strong. I think that it kind of gets people back and into what got people into gaming in the first place, you know? And that's what Donkey Kong is so strong with, is that it's like, it doesn't try to be something more than it should. It's really just like, hey, you know, have a good fun romp, you know, for a few hours at a time, digging through dirt and clay and mud. And it's actually surprisingly intuitive too. That's another thing. Like, the controls make sense, you know, except for that fucking snake, but we'll get to that. But the controls make a lot of sense, and it, you know, I'm just blown away. It's a solid game. You know, the meta score for this, the Metacritic score, was a cumulative 91, and honestly, I don't disagree with that. It's really strong, but like, I don't think that it deserves any less or more than where it landed. But the conversation online outside of the critics is where I kind of got weirded out, because people are talking about this like it's, you know, the game of the century, and I don't necessarily feel that way. And I'm going to get into some of the negatives here. One thing that I didn't like, if I'm being 100% honest, it's the story beats. They're extremely juvenile. I'll be honest here too. I'm not crazy about Pauline. I think that the story was kind of shoehorned in there. Her character just, I don't know. Like, it does add levity, and like, it gives someone to actually talk, because, you know, I don't want too much dialogue from my Donkey Kong, but I do. I do not love her additions in the story. Like, I listened to, every time I went to like one of the camps or whatever where where you go to sleep, I did listen to what she had to say. I did also, you know, I didn't skip any of the dialogue. You know, I read all the tiles and stuff from the I forget what the name of that race is. I actually did follow along with the lore, so I wasn't completely lost, and I was really happy when we got to the final boss, which I'm not going to spoil, by the way, because I know it's a new game and people are still getting there. But I'll just say I didn't love Pauline, and I didn't love the story. I think she's cute, but you know, that's not why you're playing this game. You know, the story is not, it's not about that. I just think anytime I did have to deal with it, it was a little bit of a cringe. So not a huge deal. Another thing I didn't love, the end, while it does get really epic, it kind of outstayed its welcome just a little bit. I'll be honest, I feel like they could have cut maybe 2 of the levels of the layers out. Like maybe there's one where it's like a fast food layer. You probably could have cut that out, even though it did mechanically make sense because you're using all of your Bananza powers in conjunction. Like you're starting to actually need to use all of them, but just to get through the level, you don't have to do that. So I don't know that it really added anything. I don't know that we needed 15, 16 different levels with, varying degrees of length. I feel like it could have been done with 12 or 13, and it would have been just fine. This game is a meaty, lengthy game, and I don't wish for it to be any as long as it was, because when you get to the end, it really starts to like drag on and like you're like, okay, is this actually going to be over? You think it's going to be over, and then actually it's not over. Actually it's not over. Actually it's not over. So that kind of got irritating, if I'm being 100% honest. Another thing, and I think this is one of the biggest things that people had an issue with, is the difficulty is kind of low. You spend most of the game kind of destroying everything. And then, at the very end of the game, they wrenched the difficulty up to where it should have been basically the entire time. But that is one thing that the spirit of Donkey Kong is lost in, is those old games were extremely difficult. Even Donkey Kong 64 was actually pretty hard. And I think that this might actually be the easiest Donkey Kong game. And I get what Nintendo's doing, and they're trying to make him more of a family, an approachable game character, and like his games, they want to make it more approachable. So I certainly understand what they're doing with him and making his game a lot easier, but I don't necessarily think that it needed to be that bad. And in fact, I wish they had just included options, because you're banking on a lot of nostalgia from fans who have played the really hard versions of this game. So like, why not have it to where, you take a certain amount of damage and you're gone? Like, why not have it to where, 2 hits will kill you, kind of like the old Donkey Kong games, So I wish that they did have like a difficulty slider option. And that's always been a thing for me. I think games that are too hard or too easy, like without any variance, like I think that's an opportunity every single time. So but especially a game like this, I understand it for Dark Souls, not every game has to be for everybody, but like, when you're coming to a franchise like this that's storied and known for being extremely difficult, I really think that they should have had options for the people who loved it the way it always was. And that might be a hot take, but I do love Donkey Kong Bonanza, but I really think that they should have switched that up just a bit, like just gave us the opportunity to, to make it harder or easier if we wanted. But that's really about it. So to sum it up, I think the game is great. It's fun. It's simple. The controls are intuitive. I love that it gets really epic. The ending is fantastic. But, some of the Bananza powers are kind of silly. Like the snake, for example, who is on screen right now. Absolutely awful. The zebra, even the song is a banger, but you don't need it except for the very select times where they force you to use it, and that's it. And then and I wish that also they had kind of scaled the difficulty out across the game a little better, because it really did not get difficult until the very, very end of the game. And that's kind of a lame experience, because it's a long game. It's a lot of game. So to go through it for so long and it's so easy, it just really held it back from being, one of the greats. That's why I will also say that I think Mario Odyssey is still a better experience, because Mario Odyssey is, it varies. It's not always quite as easy, and the post game on that is wildly difficult in comparison to the beginning. So anyway, this is not that video. I will do that video soon, this versus Mario Odyssey. But long story short, I think it's great. I think it deserves a score. Do I think that it's a tiny bit overhyped? Yes. I don't think that it is, necessarily a better game experience than Expedition 33. I don't think it's as good as Astrobot, but could I see it winning Game of the Year? Absolutely. But that's about as far as it goes. It's the best Donkey Kong game, but the Donkey Kong games, if we're being 100% honest, they're just okay. Like, they're solid 7s out of 10s, and this is a weak 9. So, and hunt me down for saying it, but it's true. Anyway, that's it for me. I'll try to post a little bit while I'm out of town, but I cannot promise anything. And our traveling after this is mostly done, so I'll be back to it. And thanks for watching. I'll see you soon, and long live the Turtle Kingdom.